great D by Puerto Rico.
40 players.
High fives moved through the entire Team USA huddle, with every single player getting acknowledged except one, and the cameras caught everything. Caitlin Clark showed love to everyone before turning away, as if Angel Reese's outstretched hand wasn't even in her line of sight. The internet exploded instantly. Fan bases clashed, arguments took over timelines, and suddenly everyone had a strong opinion about a few seconds of game footage. Drop a comment with your honest take on whether Caitlin Clark intentionally ignored Angel Reese's hand, or if this whole moment got blown out of proportion by people chasing controversy. Let's take a step back and look at what actually happened versus what people chose to believe, because those are two completely different conversations.
As Angel Reese is trying to high-five her, nothing happens. Like, she high-fives the last person and just turns her head. So by the time Angel has lifted her hand, Caitlin is not looking. Caitlin is not looking here.
During Team USA's matchup against Puerto Rico, Caitlin Clark moved down the line handing out high fives to her teammates in the routine post-game exchange that happens after every basketball game, from youth leagues all the way to international competition. You tap hands, nod, and keep moving. It's standard, forgettable behavior that usually goes unnoticed. This time, it didn't. Angel Reese extended her hand just as Clark pivoted away before reaching her, never slowing down, never looking back, and never looping around to complete the exchange. Reese was left standing there with her hand out, getting no response, while cameras captured the entire moment. The clip spread across every platform within minutes, hitting Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and every outlet that feeds on sports controversy, with reactions pouring in before most people even finished watching it once. Caitlin Clark supporters defended the moment as nothing unusual. Angel Reese fans called it disrespectful. Casual viewers saw it as a sign of deep attention. Dedicated women's basketball followers argued it was being overanalyzed. And through all the noise, the actual game being played in a FIBA World Cup qualifying setting quickly became a side story.
The opposite was the case. People were making a big deal. Yes, they would. Absolutely. People were making a big deal about Angel looking her off and this being like Caitlin's get back for Angel looking her off. At the end of the day, this doesn't.
The situation becomes even more notable when you consider Team USA was in the middle of an undefeated qualifying run, with Caitlin Clark leading the entire roster in points, assists, and plus-minus, while Angel Reese handled her role on the boards and did what the team needed. They were winning convincingly, yet the conversation dominating the news cycle for days focused on a brief stretch of post-game handshake footage. That says a lot about where women's basketball stands right now. The attention is massive, the reactions feel personal, and every interaction between these two players gets placed under a microscope because their dynamic has become one of the sport's central storylines. That dynamic exists because both players bring compelling but completely different styles and identities to the game and its culture. Looking strictly at the footage, Clark was moving down the line while Reese had her hand extended, and Clark turned away before reaching her. From a visual standpoint, it looked like a snub and came across, to many, as deliberate. When someone directly in front of you has their hand out and you turn away before reaching them, it naturally sends a message regardless of intent. The optics weren't great, and no version of that clip makes it look like a warm, connected team moment. It appeared exactly how people described it, and pretending otherwise doesn't really help anyone.
But just checked in a few seconds ago. Caitlin Clark to Angel Reese. What a connection! Angel can't connect.
But looking like something isn't the same as actually being that thing, which is where the conversation needs more balance than most social media reactions allowed. The clip captured a single moment pulled from an entire game, a full tournament, and a longer relationship between two players who have competed against each other for years. One moment doesn't define everything, and one missed handshake doesn't fully explain how two teammates feel about each other. Evidence of that showed up in the very next game when Team USA faced Italy, where Clark and Reese looked completely fine. Not just coexisting the way teammates sometimes do when there's tension, but genuinely in sync, with eye contact, communication on the court, involvement in the same plays, and the kind of natural coordination you see between players who understand the system. That game showed none of what people assumed the earlier clip proved. If there were real, lasting issues, they would have shown up through body language, ball movement, or positioning during a competitive game, and those things are nearly impossible to fake over extended minutes. None of that was visible. What did show up in the Puerto Rico game, though, was something else worth noting, as Angel Reese had moments where she operated outside her typical role, bringing the ball up the floor with Clark nearby, attempting passes outside her usual strengths, and at times holding position on rebounds rather than immediately looking for the outlet. That kind of play created real disruption within the offense and was arguably the more important storyline from that game. But the handshake clip pulled far more attention than the ball handling issues because it was simple, short, and easy for anyone to understand without needing basketball knowledge. You don't have to know anything about spacing or transitions to react to someone's hand being left hanging. Meanwhile, the actual on-court decisions required context and a closer look to fully understand their impact. Sports media tends to favor the version of a story that needs the least explanation, even when the more complex version carries greater importance. What happened with the ball during the Puerto Rico game had direct consequences for how the offense functioned, while the handshake moment mainly affected how widely a clip spread online. Those two things aren't equal in terms of real basketball significance. Looking back at Clark's side of it, was the missed handshake intentional? Honestly, it probably was on some level. Clark is one of the most aware and intelligent players on the court, constantly reading situations in real time. It's hard to believe she didn't notice Reese standing there with her hand out. The decision to turn away before reaching her was still a decision, whether it came from frustration in the moment or something more deliberate. Only Clark truly knows what was behind it. But even if it was intentional, that doesn't automatically make it a major issue. It reflects a moment between two competitors with a complicated dynamic, not necessarily a serious problem. These kinds of moments happen all the time in professional sports, where relationships are competitive, layered, and occasionally tense. Sometimes those moments reflect genuine frustration, and other times they are just the result of a single off day within an otherwise functional relationship. The fact that this one moment sparked days of debate says more about the size and passion of the audience than it does about the situation itself. If two lesser-known players had the same interaction, it likely wouldn't have spread beyond a small circle. But because it involved Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, it turned into a major talking point. That level of attention is actually a positive sign for women's basketball. Intense fan engagement drives conversation, and conversation drives growth in viewership, coverage, and overall investment in the sport. Even the ongoing debates between fan bases, as exhausting as they can be, contribute to that larger growth. Looking at the Puerto Rico game as a whole, Clark's performance fell below her usual standard, and that became part of the broader narrative as well. The missed high-five clip also circulated separately, meaning two unrelated moments from the same game were being treated as if they were connected, even though they weren't. One was about performance, the other about a brief post-game interaction. But online platforms prioritize engagement over nuance, and both clips generated exactly that. The following game against Italy effectively put an end to the discussion. Clark performed well, Reese played her role, the team won, and there were no visible issues between them. Whatever happened earlier was clearly resolved or moved past quickly, which is typical in professional sports. Players compete, experience moments of tension, and then move forward. Meanwhile, the audience often continues debating long after the players themselves have moved on. One brief interaction led to days of online reaction, only for everything to look normal again in the very next game. That's the reality of sports in the social media era. If you think this situation was overblown, leave a like, subscribe for more, and share your honest opinion on whether it was a real slight or just a moment taken too far.